it significant that Australia yesterday officially said that same-sex, quote, marriage is the law of the land. The people voted for that. Strong majority voted for it. And then the parliamentary congressional leaders there, governmental leaders there in Australia, then turned it into law in response to that. And the same day, they passed a euthanasia bill. I find that not non-coincidental. In other words, I said that wrong. I do not find that coincidental. That's what I meant to say. There is a spiritual connection between the two. So I want to talk to you about that in a moment. But first, let me draw your attention to a verse in Jacob chapter 2. All right. I want to give you practical guidelines in terms of how to handle some issues. All right, my Bible software is stuck on the side of my page here. There we go. All right, got it here. Okay, let me just get it. Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. So James chapter 2. And listen to what's written there. It's an interesting verse, and I think it's one that we should take to heart when we are discussing these issues of people falling, leaders falling, now Matt Lauer, different ones being exposed. And it's not that they committed the sin or the crime allegedly or confessedly, admittedly, yesterday. It's that things from the past, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years, 10 years, they're all coming to light. Now, again, when you have repented of something, when you've dealt with it before God and man, it's in the past. Let's say you're a pastor and you committed adultery 25 years ago. You stepped down from ministry. You went through a restoration process of 1 year, doing no ministry, just sitting, getting your life back together, restoring your marriage, and then were restored back to ministry. And part of your message has always been the forgiveness of God and the grace of God. And that was 25 years back. And it's a known part of your testimony. Well, no one can throw that, oh, we're exposing. No, that's out. That's been dealt with before God. And other things, I believe if there was something that happened that only God knew about, and I don't mean you committed a crime. I don't mean something that you have to go public with, but something that only God knew about, and you truly repented before God and turned to him, and he had mercy and cleansed you of that thing. And again, it's not a crime that was committed or something against another person that would have to come out. It's just something between you and God. I don't believe God is going to bring that thing up or let other people bring that up when you've truly and genuinely repented before him. But when we just sweep things under the rug, that's when they can come back and bite us. So look at what's written here in Jacob chapter 2. For whoever keeps the entire law, yet falls in one point, is guilty of breaking it all. For he who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not murder. So if you do not commit adultery, but you do murder, you are a lawbreaker. Speak and act as those who will be judged by the law of freedom. For judgment is without mercy to the one who hasn't shown mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. That's a very deep verse and passage, and one that for many years I felt I need to dig into and understand even more, that there's more that's being said there. Because we know that Jacob is exalting God as the judge and saying the judge stands at the door, and writing to Jewish believers in Yeshua, for sure he is a man who appreciates divine justice and that God's judgments in the earth are a good thing. Yet he also knows that none of us stand without mercy. And that is how we must deal with others. Yes, there are rights and wrongs. Yes, I have been involved with removing people from ministry because of sin in their lives, especially when they weren't repentant. Yes, I've been involved with restoring people from ministry. Yes, we've had students that have had to step down because of sin in their lives or we've had to put out of the school, and students that we have restored that are thriving and doing great works for God many years later. I'm talking about the attitude of our heart, that you don't want to throw stones at those who are fallen. And look at this, an exhortation from Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 5. It's talking about elders who sin, and the Greek would point to elders who continue in sin. In other words, they are unrepentant, all right? They are not responding to the calls to repent. And it says this in verse 19, don't accept an accusation against an elder unless it is supported by 2 or 3 witnesses. Then it says this, publicly rebuke those who sin. And you make a good case for it, meaning those who continue to sin, persist in sin. You publicly rebuke them so that the rest will also be afraid. A few times over the years, we were involved as a church fellowship congregation I was part of many years ago with excommunicating someone that was persisting in sin and divisive and destructive behavior, warned and reached out to and warned and reached out to and appealed to and reached out to and appealed to, wrote witnesses to speak with, and the person kept going about their destructive behavior, after which we had to excommunicate them. And I remember it was a sober affair and with much prayer for the individual. I remember going home, searching my own heart, looking at my own life. So here's what I'd love to see. I'd love to see a year from now, Matt Lauer getting up and saying, this was the lowest point of my life, the most embarrassing, painful moment in my life. But God used it to wake me up and show me what really matters. He's a married man with kids. God uses to wake me up and get hold of me, and now I'm living a brand new life. Let's pray for redemption in the midst of the mess. Yeah, things are being shaken. Let's see what God is going to do in a redemptive way. 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back. I've got some very intense quotes of life I want to read to you.
On the program today is Dr. Michael Brown. Good to have you on, sir.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to have you on again, I should say. When it comes to this whole idea of the marriage crisis that we're in as a culture, should we capitulate at this time? I mean, what do you think our stance should be as a church as it relates to marriage?
Yeah, this is not the time to capitulate or throw in the towel. This is the time to push back. The Supreme Court ruling on marriage, that's our Roe v. Wade moment. This is our wake-up call. Look, when the Roe v. Wade passed, there was tremendous hostility to the pro-life position in America. And we were told it's over, the younger generation embraces abortion. Look at how things have radically changed. 1966, April, cover story, Time magazine, Is God Dead? 5 years later, June 1971, cover story, Time magazine, The Jesus Revolution. Things can turn on a dime. Things can turn radically. I believe that gay activism has within itself the seeds of self-destruction. Once you redefine marriage, you render it meaningless. The further this goes, the ones who are going to be standing are the ones who hold to marriage and family as God intended. So rather than this being the end of the culture wars, this is the wake-up call. This is the beginning. And I believe that unless Jesus comes first, we're going to see the tide turn.
It's The Line of Fire with your host, activist, author, international speaker, and theologian, Dr. Michael Brown. Your voice of moral, cultural, and spiritual revolution. Get into The Line of Fire now by calling 866-34-TRUTH. Here again is Dr. Michael Brown.
It is a joy to be with you today on The Line of Fire. Michael Brown, thanks so much for joining us. Here's the number to call, 866-34-TRUTH, 866-348-7884. It's one thing to talk about the pro-life movement. It's one thing to talk about the importance of standing against abortion and offering life and hope to mothers and children. It's another thing to change our mentality. So I have a question for you. How have we embraced in America a mentality of death, a culture of death? I want to talk to you about that in a moment. There are some really interesting quotes from people, you could say, on both sides of the abortion debate. And they are eye-opening quotes There's one that is very, very revealing by Camille Paglia. Camille Paglia is a journalist. She is an intellectual. She is an outspoken lesbian feminist. She is an atheist. And listen to what she has to say. I have these quotes in my book, Saving a Sick America. Listen to what Camille Paglia had to say. She said, although I'm an atheist who worships only great nature, I recognize the superior moral beauty of religious doctrine that defends the sanctity of life. The quality of idea and language in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, for example, exceeds anything in grimly utilitarian feminism. In regard to the commandment, thou shalt not kill, the Catechism says, human life is sacred because from its beginning it involves the creative action of God. This is a lesbian feminist atheist who says this. Let me read a little more. She says, God alone is the Lord of life from its beginning until its end. No one can under any circumstance claim for himself the right directly to destroy an innocent human being. This is quoting from the Catholic Catechism. Or this, she quotes, human life must be respected and protected absolutely from the moment of conception. From the first moment of his existence, a human being must be recognized as having the rights of a person, among which is the inviolable right of every innocent being to life. She says, there's much more moral beauty here than utilitarian feminism. Like, hey, just whatever's practical and works. She sees a moral beauty here. Now listen to someone from a very different perspective, a practicing devout Catholic like Mother Teresa. Listen to what she has to say. She has called abortion the greatest destroyer of love and peace today. And she says this, by abortion, the mother does not learn to love, but kills even her own child to solve her own problems. Any country that accepts abortion is not teaching its people to love, but to use violence to get what they want. And she asked, if we can accept that a mother can kill her own child, how can we tell other people not to kill one another? These are some staggering quotes, and they are not exaggerated. In other words, when we have a mentality that discards babies in the womb, when we have a mentality that does not recognize the sanctity of life beginning in the womb, when we have a mentality that does not protect the most innocent and the most unprotected, who theoretically should be in the safest place in the world, namely within their own mother's womb, when that is what happens, it brings us to a place where we really have a mentality of death, where we have a mentality where certain lives can be discarded. If you've had an abortion, there is hope, there's forgiveness, there's mercy in Jesus. He died for that sin too. He can bring healing to your life and give you hope for the future. But this is part of how we have developed a mentality of death and a culture of death in America, from our entertainment to our laws. Changing our hearts and minds is where it all starts. Hey, friends, just a quick reminder, this Saturday, go right now to lovelifecharlotte.com. Join us as thousands will be gathering what will be an historic March for Life, Saturday morning, Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll be right back.
Shemayim. Shemayim, heaven's sky.
Today we're going to look at the Hebrew word Shemayim. Shemayim. It has several different meanings. It can mean the heavens or heaven or sky. And what's interesting about the form is the ending ayim, which in Hebrew is normally a dual form. For example, 2 eyes, einayim, 2 ears, oznayim, 2 hands, yadayim, 2 feet, raglayim. So why is Shemayim a dual form? Well, apparently different aspects of the heavens, different aspects of the sky. When we see in the Hebrew Bible the words Eretz and Shemayim, heaven and earth. So Shemayim, heaven, earth, Eretz, like Genesis 1:1, Bereshit bara Elohim, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Those two together speak of the entire universe. And otherwise, heaven, if we read about the birds flying in the shamayim, well, it doesn't mean flying in heaven around God's throne. It means flying in the sky. So we have to interpret it in that regard. And normally shamayim is not being used as heaven in terms of going to heaven when you die. We're talking about the sky, the heavenlies, the universe in that respect. What's interesting, though, is that the rabbis would have plays on words and things like that, and different people looking at the Hebrew would have plays on words. And remember, in creation, that you have the firmament separating the water from the water. So you have the water on the earth, and then the water that's in the sky that comes down with the rain. So the word for water is mayim. All right, why is that a dual form? That's another question. But the word for water is mayim. And there's just a play on words, shamayim in Hebrew, sham, there, mayim, there is water. Shamayim, there is water. But it's just a play on words. You know, it's really easy to focus on one particular thing and not look at the larger issues or problems. You know, you might be doing an analysis of a business and you see, well, the sales team is really not producing. Oh, well, the sales team is not producing because research and development is not giving them good current information. Sales team is not producing because the commission base on which they're functioning is not fair to them and they're not motivated enough. Or the sales team is not doing well because the sales manager beats them down all the time. You know, there could be many different reasons for it, or because they realize the product itself is faulty. So sometimes you have to look at larger issues and ask larger questions. And it's the same way as we are standing for life and fighting against abortion. I mentioned on the air yesterday that a new report released from Centers of Disease Control says the most recent statistics they have, 2014, show a 20% drop in abortions in America. Now, one abortion is one too many, but the pro-life movement is making progress. It's been a long battle. There's been much sacrifice, a horrific loss of over 50 million babies along the way. The pro-life movement is making progress. So, having said that, let's ask a larger question. How do we have a culture of death in general in our society? Think of how much violence we now have in the media, in Hollywood, in movies, in TV. It's just kind of an always thing, always there. The blood, the shooting, the gore, and it's just so commonplace. And it's not like you're watching a war documentary where this is part of the horrible history and you sit there and mourn and grieve. This is stuff that we're being entertained by. Do you remember when West Side Story was the Academy Award winner in 1961? I was 6 years old at the time, but I remember talk about the movie. And I do remember seeing the movie as a boy. But there was controversy because it was, quote, so violent. Go back and watch it and consider that was a violent movie then. You got the gangs wearing jackets and ties, and it's a musical dancing in the streets, and it's not vulgar dancing either, right? As far as I recall. And you know, I saw excerpts of it maybe 15 years ago and was kind of shocked by the tameness of it. But the point is that was controversial. Look at old Hollywood movies, whether it's a cowboy movie, whether it's a crime movie. And the good guy ends up winning. You're not allowed to have the bad guy, the criminal, ultimately triumph. And it's not all kinds of blood and gore the way we have it today, where, I mean, it comes splattering off the screen. But it's not just there. How about video games? Years back, let's see, got my first computer in 1985. A couple years after that, with one of the computers I got, or a software upgrade, whatever it was, there was a video game, and you went, you're captured in some Nazi prison, and it may be a famous game today. I don't know, but you're talking over 30 years ago now, or roughly 30 years ago. You're in this Nazi. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is. I can tell you when. Yeah, so almost 30 years ago. Because I remember where I lived when I got it, and I remember you're playing this game, and you break out of your prison cell. And you're armed and you have a certain amount of energy, and you gotta, you're trying to run and you gotta kill these soldiers before they kill you, and then you've got to get their weapon, and that ups your energy level and whatever. So I'm playing this thing, just a little video game. Let me check this thing out, and then next thing I get, I run out of energy. I get shot, and the screen is just blood. This is in the earliest days of color screens, and the graphics weren't any. I mean, they're be ridiculous compared to today. But I thought, yuck, that's it. Took the game off the computer and never touched it again. I mean, that would be laughable compared to what's out there now. And people say, I play that all day long. Doesn't affect me. I say it affects you. I say the fact that you say it doesn't affect you at all affects you. Unless you say, well, look, I like to be the good guy and take down the bad guy, and that's my release and relief in doing that, and I enjoy it. It's like, and you'd be okay with your little kids watching that, and you'd be okay from doing that, going immediately into the presence of God in worship and prayer. Yes, and there's been enough study that's been done to find a correlation between violent video games and between acts of violence, or people getting more violent, maybe someone that's unstable, more prone to it, or more desensitized. Columbine killers is their first act of murder, right? And they're going through the hallways laughing as they're shooting people. Well, how many years did they play violent video games and watch movies like Natural Born Killers? They became desensitized. And I'm not equating that to, say, watching The Walking Dead or some modern vampire movie, but isn't it peculiar that there's so much focus on the dead and the dying and blood and guts? And then even endless crime shows, some of them can be very well done and even with moral lessons, but constant focus on dead bodies, and there's something to it. So I want to give you a little experiment. I do this in my book, Saving a Sick America. All right. So I want to suggest that you do something, just something to try. Again, this is from my book, Saving a Sick America. By the way, if you don't have it, now's a great time to get it. It's just about half price for the hardcover on Amazon. So if you go to Amazon.com, order the hardcover, it's just about half price. So it's a great time to get the book. But here are some suggestions. Here's a little challenge that I give in the book. First, go about your normal activities, normal daily activities, watching and reading and listening to what you normally watch and read and listen to. But this time, take note of how much death is involved. So in other words, just live your normal life. Do what you normally do, but just track it. Take note of it. Video games I play, movies I watch, TV shows I watch, things that I read. How much focus is on death? How many images of the dead and dying? How many corpses? How much graphic violence? How much death you seeing by choice, not by necessity, over the course of a week? I'm not talking about part of your job involves death. I'm not talking about you're researching things and part of it you have to research the violence. I'm not talking about reading about the latest terror attack and looking at the images just so that you feel the pain and the weight of what happened. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being entertained by death, dying, graphic violence. Just note in the course of a day, in the course of a week, in the course of a month, how much is part of your day. That's number one. Second, if you realize that you're being influenced by a culture of death, then take a 30-day break from all forms of death-related media entertainment, be it video games, favorite TV shows, or gratuitously violent novels. Then third, immerse yourself in words of life. Again, these are recommendations I give in Saving a Sick America. If you have the book already, this is in the chapter From the Walking Dead to a Culture of Life. Immerse yourself in words of life. I would encourage you to read several chapters from Proverbs and the Gospel of John each day, noticing the constant emphasis on life. As the voice of wisdom says in Proverbs 8, whoever finds me finds, Proverbs 8, and obtains favor from the Lord, but he who fails to find me injures himself. All who hate me love death. It's Proverbs 8, 35, 36. And then fourth, when you spend time in prayer, ask God to flood your heart with his life and to give you the perspective of life, to see the world as he would have you see it. And then fifth, after 30 days, Ask the Lord how he would have you to live. You might be surprised to see how your perspectives have changed. In the words of Paul, Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Friends, this is some of the counsel that I give, Saving a Sick America, to help us renew our hearts, renew our minds, and to develop a mentality of life. I know for a period of years, I didn't watch any violent sports. And, I'd been so into watching boxing in years past that I just quit watching any violent sports. Did it for years. And when someone wanted me to see one particular sporting event and it was pretty violent, I mean, not horrifically violent, but pretty violent, I just could hardly watch it. And then, to be honest, got used to it. Yeah, and watch this and watch that. And yeah, I mean, I don't like to see the real bad violence. It's like, oh, it looks the other way, but you get used to it. Listen, I don't want to get used to something that's displeasing to God. I'm not telling you everything you should or shouldn't watch. That's for you to work out between you and the Lord, unless the word explicitly addresses it. I'm just saying, better to be sensitive than to be desensitized. And we become desensitized by this constant immersion, filth and junk and violence. Am I making sense? We'll be right back. It's been a beautiful spring day in the suburbs of Pennsylvania on this Thursday, June 7th, 1961. You just got home from work and your wife's almost finished preparing one of her typically delicious dinners. Tonight is TV night and everybody's ready to enjoy Ozzie and Harriet and Leave It to Beaver. Of course, a live in-person show is incredible. Who could forget your family outing 2 weeks ago when you all drove into Manhattan and saw My Fair Lady on Broadway? But TV has its own unique appeal, especially with shows like Lassie and Andy Griffith and Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color and Father Knows Best and the Flintstones. And they're all on at night so the whole family can enjoy them together. Well, on this lovely spring night, you're a bit more tired than you realize, fighting to stay awake through the current Beaver episode, even though it's a bit more suspenseful than normal. But this night, you doze off just before the end of the program, and when you wake up a few minutes later, everything's changed. The TV's still there, except it's giant now, flat, hanging on a wall, exploding with colors, and instead of the smiling Cleaver family, it's... No, this can't be real. A nude couple going on their first date? What's happening? In a panic, you look for another channel, quickly figuring out how to use the newfangled remote control you're now holding in your hands, but your eyes can't believe what you're seeing. Did I wake up in hell? But something else is different when you look around the room. You're the only one there. Your 15-year-old son is out with his best friend Robbie, who used to be called Robin, back when he was a girl, along with Robbie's 17-year-old brother. They went to see a new movie in the Hostel series where people are tortured to death and mutilated for fun, but hey, at least he's out of the house. It's better than playing Grand Theft Auto for 6 straight hours where your boy's raping women and killing cops on his video screen. Suddenly, you wake up with a start. This was all a dream. With relief, you look around at your wonderful family smiling at their dad who fell asleep in the middle of TV night, and you think to yourself, thank God, this was only a bad dream. There's no way America or my family could ever look like that.
Is Dr. Michael Brown.
Hey friends, let me thank all of you who helped us, who sent in gifts on Giving Tuesday yesterday. Thanks so much for your generosity. Year-end giving really helps us. If you haven't done it yet, by all means, stand with us. It helps so much towards the end of the year. And I will be traveling to India, God willing, on Saturday, participating in Love Life Charlotte Saturday morning, going straight from there to the airport. That's the plan, unless my flights get changed yet again. But going to India, it's an expensive trip, and we go there to give and pour out. So thank you so much for giving and standing with us. And if you say, and we appreciate all these videos you put out, we appreciate the live stream of your radio show on video as well. We love watching it. Then, hey, stand with us. Go to our GoFundMe page It is GoFundMe.com/Ask Dr. Brown Studio. GoFundMe.com/Ask Dr. Brown, ASKDR Brown Studio. As you go there and donate, again, thanks for all who've stood with us and helped us there. In the coming days, we're going to have an exciting update that's posted there too, and a lot of good things happening, but it's partnership. So pat yourself on the back. Those of you who pray for us, those of you who are our monthly supporters, our torchbearers, the backbone of this ministry, those of you who help us with generous one-time gifts, those of you who've given a GoFundMe, those of you who share our articles and share our videos and help people listen to the podcast or watch the show, thank you. Thank you. We're doing this together. Give yourself a pat on the back because you share in the reward. Before I come back to this issue of desensitizing, let me just tell you something funny that happened yesterday. I got a real kick out of it. I always love it when somebody recognizes my voice. I always get a kick out of that. You know, I was walking in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem, back in, was this February it was. And a guy comes up behind me, a pastor, maybe you're listening, Pastor James, I believe, from England. I think it was James. And Dr. Brown, I listened to you on the radio, or I listened to your podcast. He heard me talking to someone and recognized my voice. I was voting one time, and I was talking to the woman who's telling us, you know, what to fill out on a form, you know, to sign in. And there was a woman next to me. She was looking down, signing in. I was talking to the other woman. And as I'm talking, the woman, without looking up, she goes, "Dr. Brown, my husband and I love your show." That blesses me because I'm doing this for you. I mean, we're in this together. I don't have some ego where I need to be sitting here talking. I'm trying to serve you and be your voice. So I always love that when it happens, you know, in an airport or a hotel, or, you know, I was trying to get my room key wasn't working at a hotel in Dallas. And I went downstairs. I said, "Hey, I need another room key." They said, "You have your ID?" I said, "My ID's back in the room. You know, it's in my room. That's where my wallet is." And he goes, "Dr. Brown, I listened to your show." I said, I guess we did voice recognition." So he knew it was me. Well, anyway, I always get a kick out of that. And I just love the fact that it's all family. You know what I'm saying? I just enjoy it. It's all family. And it means so much to me because I can't see you physically, but I always know you're there listening. I think of many of you. Over the years, we've gotten so many calls, and I've met so many listeners and so many viewers that I think of you. Honestly, I'll be talking about something, I think, oh, at least so-and-so's listening to this because they listen every day, and this is their take on it. Or I wonder what this one thinks, or I hope this one is listening because it's good for them. Generally, that's how I feel. So I go into Walmart yesterday to make a stop, and just right, well, maybe 10 minutes from our studio. And as I'm walking in, there's a gal there, Salvation Army, young gal, and I'll just give details to paint a picture. She's a young white lady, and she's there, Salvation Army outfit, and she smiles. She goes, "I know you, I know you," and I just smile. I mean, different people know us from different settings, whatever, you know, and the vast majority of the people on the planet don't know me. We understand that. So I just smiled. I said, "Unfortunately, I'm just using my credit card. I don't have a dime on me to give." And she goes, "Next time." I said, "Yeah, God bless you. Have a great day." I came out like 2 minutes later because they didn't have what I was looking for. And now there's a black guy with dreadlocks. And he stops me on the way there. He goes, "Are you the YouTuber? Are you the YouTuber?" And I said to him, "Well, maybe. There are plenty of people on YouTube. We're not the biggest on it. Plenty of people billions of times bigger than us on YouTube." And I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Well, she's talking about you. She really wants to meet you." So I went over and we talked a little bit. And I said, "Hey, I want to send your free book." And she goes, "You're the one they shut down your YouTube account." I said, "Yeah, they demonetized a lot of our stuff." I said, "It's getting better, though. You know, more and more of the stuff's getting approved. We have to keep fighting every inch, but they seem to be doing better." And we had a friendly chat. And anyway, I was smiling just because of her enthusiasm and her thinking, you know, like, how can I even go out in public? You know, everybody knows. I said, "Hey, it's a big world. I mean, I could walk through Walmart, walk in and out, and no problem. I'm not going to get swarmed with people. That's not an issue." But what warmed my heart was this. We got a great team working together here, devoted team in our studio, and working around the clock in different ways to help us get the message out to you. And that's what warms my heart, that people are listening and people are reading and people are watching. And by God's grace, we're getting a message out and people are being impacted. But I told you that story for this reason. That's us. That's our joy together. So let's really pray. It's my constant prayer, that God would deepen our message, that God would amplify our message, that God would intensify our message, that it would come with greater anointing and greater fire and greater precision and greater clarity, and that God would expand our reach to more and more people. If you told me 5 years ago we'd be reaching everyone we're reaching today, I'd think it was awesome. But I look at it today, it's, man, we're just scratching the surface. We want to touch this generation. We want to touch the nations. We want to see Israel say, we want to make an impact. So back to where I started about desensitizing our consciences, I want to encourage you. No man, no woman is greater than who they really are on the inside. We can talk well, we can write well, we can sing well, we can produce well, we can do all kinds of things well, but who are we really? Let me encourage you in the days ahead. We have maybe some holiday time, some downtime. Go after God for your own life and say, God, make me more and more like your son. God, where there's compromise in my life, where I become accustomed to something, where I'm backslidden and don't know it, where I've left my first love, where I've gone away from key convictions, Lord, where there's something displeasing, show me, reveal it. Lord, I want to be one that when the light shines on me, it reflects something good. It doesn't expose darkness. It doesn't expose corruption. I want to be one of those that can bring everything into the light. No skeletons in the closet. No hidden sins that I have to cover with hoping nobody will find them. No hypocrisy where people say, well, you preach one thing and live another. I want to be a wholehearted servant of the Lord. I believe that's your heart as well. So while you pray for others, that's good, and pray for our country, that's good, and pray for needs to be met, that's good. Pray for yourself. God, make me more and more like your son. God, conform me more and more to the image of Jesus. That's God's ultimate plan and destiny for each of us. Let that be your prayer. Back with you for Thoroughly Jewish Thursday tomorrow.